Welcome back, crew. It's August, so we're still diving into the amazing Blades in the Dark system. And today we've got a fun one. We're going to be going over how to finish building a crew. We started that in our PC build, but we're going to finish that up, building Caven's crew out and kind of all the ins and outs of what that goes into that. And then we're going to dive into the faction system, giving you a run through of what that means and how you can integrate it into your game if you start the Blades in the Dark system. Before we do that, one of the big missions of this channel is to get more people into playing different TTRPGs. And to go along with that, we are going to be holding our actual play game of Blades in the Dark next Wednesday, August 31st at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on my channel, T&J Gaming at Twitch. Follow me if you haven't. But we're going to be going through and playing that system. This will be my first time running and playing Blades in the Dark. And I think I'm one of the only newbies. I think there's only one other newbie with me on this one. So other ones have had experience with the system. So this is one of our few ones where players have played it before. But you're gonna get to see this system showing off. We've got a great crew that should be able to have some fun RP with it. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think we'll have a good bit of a show for it. So come through, see us RP out this amazingly flexible system. But one of the cool things we always do with our games of the month, just to encourage more people to play different games, is we're going to be giving away a copy of the Blades in the Dark PDF. So come through, and maybe you'll have a better raffle luck than I do. I never win a raffle. And get to be able to bring this home for you and your crew and get to have some amazing heist in the Blades in the Dark universe. So come through, check it out, and maybe you'll win. And one thing before we get into it, one thing I want to start doing with these videos, because I feel like I haven't done this in the past, and I feel like they just don't get as much credit. I want to give a shout out to the Blades in the Dark author. So shout outs to John Harper. He's the lead writer on Blades in the Dark. So the authors do or writers do so much work within the systems, and sometimes they just don't feel like they get as much shine as they should. So shout out to John Harper. We may even go back and do some more shout outs for some of the systems we've done before, but I'm always going to bring that up now on just get a little light on the people who made the system possible. So shout outs. You've got a great system. But let's dive into it. Let's build our crew for the Blades in the Dark universe. So remember, we rolled this on Roll20. So this is Caven's sheet. We went over that in our video on how to build a PC. Check that out if you haven't seen it yet. Great, and kind of a good walkthrough of how to get your own character running in the Blades in the Dark Duskfall City. But with this, you see we've got all of our character stuff in there. Roll20 makes it super easy. So we're going to go from character mode to crew mode. So we've got our crew in there. Don't have a name for it, but I went with the smugglers. My players are running the smugglers, and if you type into this box, you can put any of the pre-made crews in there, and it'll pre-fill into the Roll20 link. I put smugglers in there ahead of time just to save us some time. So my guys are going to be rolling with the smugglers, but let's go over a little bit of what any base crew gets as soon as you start out. So as you make your crew, you start off with 2 coins, which represents the kind of the combined savings of all of the crew members. So this is kind of where your pocket, what you start off with, and what you can kind of start making your moves with as you're building out your lair, building out your turf, and getting everything moving with your own crew story. You also have your own stronghold, your lair, and then you have a rep that you get to choose. And the reputation is just kind of like a one-word piece to kind of evoke what your crew's known for. So, like, I chose for my smuggler crew, they're ruthless. They are in to get as much coin as they can. They'll take whatever cargo you got, and they'll get it there by any means necessary. But any crew can go through and pick their reputation. You could be cunning. You can be smart, whatever you want to go for, whatever you and your crew want to be able to make and kind of have the other factions and people of Duskfall recognize about you. And one of the good things I'm going to mention too as we go through and building a crew is it's the perfect fodder for a Session 0. I think this is one of the biggest legs up the Blades of the Dark system has over other games, is that it has, if you run the crew mechanics, you've got a built-in Session 0. Because not only when you choose kind of what type of crew you are, you get to choose what within that type, what types of jobs you take. And for that seems like for a lot of people, like that seems like a more in fiction piece, but it really allows your table to align with what types of adventures they want to go on and what types of stories they want to tell. So it lets you kind of have an in-game mechanic that helps kind of make sure everybody's on the same page and that the game's a good fit for them. So really cool there. I encourage you, if you're running Blades of the Dark, make choosing your crew and describing some of your crew's backstory part of your session zero. It will really make the game help elevate your game, and just really make sure all the players are jiving and everybody's building a PC that fits into the crew and fits into the stories they want to tell. So use that. It's something I want to take away for other systems, because I think it's just an amazing way to do it that doesn't feel. Sometimes I've done this before session zeros. I kind of figured out what the crew wants to do, or kind of what the players, I should say, want to do and what types of stories they want to tell. But sometimes it can kind of feel clinical or a little bit divorced from the fiction. With this and Blades in the Dark, the way they've set it up is it's aligning the fiction with the mechanics and with kind of the session zero prereqs, and this allows you to make sure that everybody's on the same page without it feeling boring, without it feeling like you're not advancing the story. So really cool, fantastic job there. And I know session zeros are hard. Like our shout out to Dungeon Jedi Masters. That's one of my other side projects. Check it out if you haven't seen it. But one of our biggest or most popular Patreon items that we've done was our session zero checklist and guide, because it's one of those things that everybody says you should do a session zero, you should do a session zero, but it can be hard to do because there's not as many kind of resources for doing a fun one. And I think Blades in the Dark is one of the few ones that gives you built into the system if you run their crew rules. So run their crew rules, it'll be fun, it'll make a better game, and make sure everybody's on the same page. But let's get back into actually building a crew. So we've got our coins, we've got our stronghold, we've got our rep. One of the other pieces, you're going to choose a lair. So you see within the list, they've got all the different layers you can choose for your smuggler type of operation. So one of the cool things that smugglers get for free as part of being smugglers is they get a vehicle. So you can choose, and you'll see that up here, boat or carriage or other. I thought smugglers, boats, they go hand in hand, perfect fit, perfect flavor for me. So I chose the boat. So our lair is going to be our boat. So we've got that decided. So we can know where our lair is. It's a boat. And if you take a look over here, you kind of see a little bit of the map of kind of turfs and territories around your lair. And the different bonuses and pieces they get for being part of your hunting grounds, being part of your group. So I chose for our hunting grounds the fleet, because we're going to be a crew with a boat. I think having the fleet with your cohorts having their own vehicle, and cohorts or gangs that work underneath you. We'll go into that in the mechanics episode, but I thought that kind of fit the flavor and fit what I was going for. Perfect. So now we've got our fleet, we've got our hunting grounds. We've got to choose our upgrades, our contacts, and then our special abilities that go along with our crew. So, as well as what types of jobs we're going to take. So the Roll20 sheet, I don't believe it has a spot for what types of jobs you'll take. Oh, no, it does. I forgot I've already clicked there. So over here, you'll see the different types of jobs you can take with your cargo types. So with this, I wanted to do arcane and weird because you've seen with Caven, he was a whisperer. He was kind of focused on more on the arcane side of Duskadal. So I wanted to make sure that reflected in his crew. The nice thing is this doesn't lock you into anything. It just kind of gives you some base ground to build your flavors. So you could be hauling numerous different types of arcane or weird objects. I'm thinking they'd be types of people that would kind of haul like mystical goods that may, almost like a mystical drug. We'll call it Arcanum. A drug that you could take that allows you to see into the ethereal plane, and it's all the rage in the city. So they haul it in, sell it for a good profit. And Gaben's known for his viceless pleasure, and I bet he does a little bit of himself, too. But, as you said, with this system, the flavor is king, and the more you put into the flavor, the better your game with Blades in Dark will be. So go all in with flavor, and especially it'll be a little bit harder with the crew piece, because it's not just your PC's flavor, but encourage your players, talk it out, get excited about ideas, and bounce off each other as they go through and build out what their crew wants to do. But now that we've got overhauling, we're going to go over our crew upgrades. So, nice thing with the upgrades is it kind of allows you to build yourself into the world a bit. Because with your upgrades, you get to choose one that creates a friend. And you can either have it a +1 friend or a +2 friend. And we're going to go into factions a little bit later. That's going to iron out that a little bit more. And basically, if it's a +1, you can do this for free. If you spend a coin, you can get +2 on it. The other one is going to create an enemy, kind of the inverse. It's either going to be a +2 or -2 enemy, I should say, or a -1 if you spend a coin to reduce their hostility level. And this is one you want to come up with a story with. So with ours, I chose the barge. So mobility for your lair. We're on a boat. Let's make it mobile and let's kind of be able to scoot around the city if we need to. And then also we're smugglers. Camouflage is almost a must. Our vehicles are perfectly concealed at rest. So with this, you'd want to go through and find kind of which factions. We're going to go over the faction section later. And we'll say that we stole the barge from another faction. They were slipping, losing their hold on the area, and we took that barge. And then one of our buddies at another faction, we did a score for them and gave them most of the profits. And they hooked us up with their camouflage to make sure our vehicles can't be noticed as we're evading patrols. And this is kind of what you do during this crew process. You come up with ideas, and then you kind of make the flavor behind them. You kind of go through the mechanics, make the flavor, and hopefully everybody comes to an agreement with how that flavor will look. So now we've got our crew upgrades. And also, I should mention too, with training with this group, you get a vehicle to start with, but you also get training in prowess. So any of your group members, so they will get to be able to pick one skill from the prowess field, and that'll be what they're going for, or kind of where they want to put that skill. It makes it easy. So now we've got our upgrades. We need to pick a favored contact. So there's a number of different favored contacts, but I think there's only one that fits well with what we're doing here. Nael, a spirit trafficker, she's going to be able to hook us up with arcane leads. So she's a good fit. And then the last piece is each of the crews get a special ability that they can do. So you got the all hands, ghost passage, and the ghost passage seemed pretty cool, but I picked the like part of the family. And basically what this is going to do is create one of your vehicles as a cohort, and you get to use the vehicle flaws and edges and start off at a tier 1. And if you see up here, all the different flaws and edges are kind of listed in there. A little small, but they've got them in there. So I chose Nimble. The vehicle handles easily and is great for doing tricky maneuvers or smugglers. You got to get that Han Solo on and do some risky maneuvers as you're going through. And then also for the vehicle flaws, I did pick Finicky. So it's just one of those ones that it's a barge, they stole it, but only one of the crew really gets it. And without them there, it's hard to really run right. Which kind of a Han Solo feel. And I think a smuggler, Star Wars, and as you see behind me, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Star Wars is where my mind goes to, and the Falcon wouldn't really run well without Han and Chewie. So I thought that'd be a perfect fit for our smugglers here. But that's it. We've built out our boat, we built out our crew and upgrades, our lair, and all of this. This is how to build a crew. So really, biggest piece of advice, make this a session 0, get players talking. If I ever get to run a campaign with Blades in the Dark, I will definitely make sure we get a good session 0 and make sure people get their creative juices flowing and get everybody on the same pages. I feel like this is going to be a good way to jump into the campaign hot and just really have good PC builds and just some good fun behind it. But now that we've done that, we're going to jump into another piece that kind of goes hand in hand with crews. We're going to go into the faction game within Bleeds in the Dark. So let me flip our screens over here. We're going to be jumping into the book. If you've got your own book or copy of the PDF, this will be on page 44 of your PDF. And there's a couple of big things we're going to be doing as we go through and take a look at the factions world. So one of the biggest pieces as we go through this, so if you just built your own crew, your crew is going to start off at tier 0. And you see the different tiers are kind of laid out there. So tier 0, you got 1 or 2 people. You got the party in our instance. You don't have small gangs underneath you. You may just have 1 or 2 people that are willing to help you out or kind of be some good contacts or good resources within your gang. But as you build up, you get more and more people. So you've got small gangs, 3 to 6 people, medium gangs, 12 people at tier 2, and this keeps going up and up. Now, if you got somebody that's a 5 or 6, tier 5 or 6 gangs, they run the city. So tier 5's huge. They are a massive player in the city. Tier 6, like they're established, locked in. They are leaders of the city. They are near unassailable, at least at the beginning. You keep building up and up, and we'll go into what the mechanics are for building those up. One of the things we're going to take a quick look at, though, before we go into some more of the rules for it, we're going to take a look at page 282 and take a look at all the different factions of Duskfall. So these are and this is one of the pluses and minuses of the system. Plus, is it's so well built out that it's easy to kind of drop your players in there and utilize their lore and make them feel like they're part of the city, especially if they built their own crew and picked friends and enemies that matter. It's well defined, and it's can really makes it easy to just go and drop it in. Downside, linked to that plus side, is it would be a little harder to do your own homebrew with this. Or not hard, it'd be a lot more work, I should say. Because with this, it's established, you've got lore, it's in the book, you can point players to where it is, you can read it yourself and internalize it. But if you were doing your own homebrew game, it's going to be a little bit extra work you got to do. But you see all the different factions. Oh, and one thing we forgot to cover before we went over here. So you'll see the factions got their tier listed, but it also has their hold. You see there's 2 holds on there. So S and W. What that stands for is strong and weak. So you see, let's pick on the Hive. They're tier 4. They've got a strong hold on their territory. And basically, and so with your PCs too, if they built their own crew, they actually start off with a tier 0 with a strong hold. And we're going to go over some of the upgrading pieces and what that means and how you can change from strong to weak a little bit later. But this is kind of a good area, and if you go through deeper into this section, they go into all the different factions, what they do, what they mean, and kind of how you can incorporate them into your Blades in the Dark game. But yeah, let's go back to our faction game. So we've touched on the tiers, we've gone over a little bit on holds, but let's go into development. So one of the biggest pieces of any RPGs, everybody always wants to keep advancing and advancing, and the nice thing with this is your crew, your faction, your group can advance on its own as well. So development's a pretty big piece, and basically, so to move up a tier, you need to get 12 reputation. And reps can be earned a couple different ways, but the primary way that you gain reputation is by completing scores. At a base level, you gain 2 reputation for any score that you complete, but those can be kind of modified. If you go make a score against a faction that's a tier higher than you, you get 2 plus their tier in reputation. So if you went up against, you're a tier 0 and you went up against a tier 2, you would get 2 plus 2. But let's say you're a tier 1 and went up against that same tier 2. You would get 2 plus 1 because it's to the number plus the level higher versus your rep. So basically, remember where your tier is, and that's kind of how it works. The thing with this too, though, is it goes inversely. So if you go against a faction that's lower than you, it's -1 for each tier lower. So keeping track of that and making sure that you're taking scores, because those scores against those higher factions are going to have more risk. But maybe you want to go and pick on the little guys and be the big fish in the small pond and gain some reputation that way too. Nice thing is it's up to your players. They can kind of go where they want to do. So let's say we've earned our 12 reputation. There's 2 things you can do with this. So as I mentioned, you start off as a tier 0 faction with a strong hold on your territory. So 12 rep can also, at that point, you can use that 12 reputation that you have, and you can advance to the next tier. So you can utilize that. So you can go from tier 1 or tier 0 to tier 1. What that's going to do, so you have to be strong, so to be able to move from that tier 0 to tier 1. But once you move, you go from a tier 0 strong to tier 1 weak. So remember that whenever you advance to a new tier, you move from strong to weak. Also, with this advancing of tiers, it doesn't only cost a 12 rep, it also costs the tier times 8 in coin. So if you're going from that first tier, you'd have to pay 8 coin to be able to advance to the next level. Something to keep in mind, and it gets more expensive the more you go. Now, you may be wondering, how do I go from weak to strong? You also use reputation there too. So if you already, let's say you bumped yourself up to tier 1, you've done some more scores, and you got 12 again, but you're still weak. You have to use that 12 reputation to bump up your hold from strong or weak to strong before you can go through and advance again to tier 2. Pretty cool. Gives your players something to shoot for, and this gives them a lot to kind of focus on as they're going through their game. And with these tiers, they determine a number of different things. One of the biggest is they determine the quality of the goods and items that they have, but it also, as we went through, determines the type of gang that they can attract. So if you're tier 0 and you get bumped up to tier 1, you can start recruiting more people. You can get 3 to 6 people, kind of expanding those gangs underneath your cohorts, and kind of keep that portion moving. And I know cohorts go along with factions. We're going to include that in our mechanics video, just due to time. So we've gone through advancement. We've gone through the development pieces. The other pieces you can kind of do alongside the development is advancing your turf. So with your crew, you're a gang. You want to acquire more turf. And you saw when we went through our Blades in the Dark crew sheet, there's a section on there for turf as well. So with this, you can you can kind of go through and either as part of your reward for different missions or heists, scores that you're running, you can go through and acquire more turf, or you can kind of go through and different ways you can kind of go through and add it in without doing that too. But each piece of turf you have reduces the rep cost to develop by 1. So it starts off, when you get your first piece of turf, it starts off as another 12 reputation to get a new piece of turf. So this is how you can kind of get it without doing a score. So the first one, so going from 0 to 1, 12 turf, from 1 to 2, 11 turf, or 11 reputation, and they kind of so on and so on. With their example they gave, if you have 2 turf, you need 10 rep to develop another one. If you have 4 turf, 8 rep to develop another one after that. So it kind of keeps going on and so on and so on and so on. So now you've got your turf on that side. Maybe you guys are kind of expanding your turf and there's another faction that's been pushing back against you and you want to figure out a way to reduce their hold on a territory. So what you can do is you can perform an operation, but this would be basically a score, so this would be an uptime mission for your group to find a way to find a spot where they're vulnerable. And this kind of the score is about finding where that faction is vulnerable and making sure the operation succeeds. And if you succeed, kind of going at that faction, they're going to lose 1 level of hold. So let's say you were targeting the Hive, which was a tier 4 strong faction. If you complete that mission, complete that score, they're going to move from strong to weak, which puts you in a really good position to kind of continue messing around with them. Now, one thing to note, if factions are at war, so let's say if you kept picking on that Hive and their favorability levels went lower, which we're going to touch on in just a second, that lowers everybody's hold by 1 because you're vulnerable, you're at war, you're duking it out with another faction. It is something you have to kind of keep in mind if you're picking on different groups. So if you go from strong to weak, and if you have a tier 0 hold, and you go from strong or weak and lose hold after that, because these operations can be done against the players as well, your lair comes under attack comes under threat, I should say, by enemies, or by a faction seeking to profit off of your misfortune. So if you're tier 0, which the crew's going to start off at, you're in a dangerous spot. You got to keep your hold on your territory and make sure you're expanding and bumping up your tiers as you go. And gems, this is something fun you can throw at your players to keep them on their toes and keep them working towards those goals. So now the next big piece is faction status. This is a sliding scale, 3 either way, so +3 to -3. +3, these guys are your allies, your best friend. They're going to help you even if it's not in their best interest to do so. And they want you to be there to do the same for them. You kind of see it ticks down there until you get to 0, which is a neutral faction. Nice thing with this, as we mentioned, that with the crew building rules, you can't do factions without crews. So you've got a faction that's most likely at least helpful to you. They could be friendly if you spent some extra coin. And on the hostile other side, you've got a faction that could be hostile towards you, who's going to be looking for opportunities to hurt you, as long as it doesn't cause a serious problem for them. Or if you spent some coin, they may be a faction that's just willing to interfere with you, basically one that's doesn't cost anything, doesn't interfere with their operations, they'll pick on you a bit. Now the big one, 3 is war. This faction is going to go out of their way to hurt you, even if it's not in their best interest to do so. So if you continue to do different things like hunting in people's territories or doing operations against a faction and you get to level 3, you guys are going to war. They're going to be going all out against you. So they'll be taking precautions against you. When you're at war with another faction, you get a +1 heat from your scores. You temporarily lose that hold, as we discussed. And you only have to do 1 downtown action rather than 2. So war is a bad spate to be in unless you think you can win it. So there's 2 ways to end the war. You can eliminate your faction. So go all in, eliminate that enemy. Or by negotiating a mutual agreement to establish a new status rating. So this is kind of a cool one, I think. This is something fun that you guys can work towards. You're having good mechanics behind this to kind of tell a good story as your gang goes through and expands and crashes against some of the other major players in the area. So other pieces in here too. You got the different claims, and you'll see the maps on there. This is something I really like to go through. And you kind of go through and claim different territories, and basically you can go through and seize them. There's rules for gaining and losing a claim, but we'll go through those in our mechanics video. Just do this will get a little bit longer, but I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a quick look at the faction rules for the Blades in the Dark system, as well as how to build a crew to be able to compete against those factions. This is an area I really enjoy. I wish I may do a short campaign with it, because it's one of those ones I want to experience in more depth than a one-shot can do. But either still, I'm looking forward to trying it out with our one-shot August 31st. So come through, hang out with us. Maybe you'll be one of the lucky winners. It's Tegan J Gaming, August 31st, Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So we're going to be kicking it off and get your chance to win a copy of the Blades in the Dark PDF and be able to run this system with you and your crew at home. But if you're new to this channel, please drop a follow, drop a like. We always do videos like this at least once a week with the different system of the month. This month it was Blades in the Dark. Last month it was Power Ranger, or last month it was the One Ring. But we've done Power Rangers, Lancer, Coyote, and Crow. We're always looking for new TTRPGs to do. Still trying to determine what we're going to do next month for September. I'm leaning towards End of the Odd. September's a short month for me. I'm going to be on vacation for about half of it, so I wanted an easier game to get into. So still haven't decided, but maybe End of the Odd. But really, come through, hang out, learn about the wider world of TTRPGs. It's kind of why I've done this channel myself, because I wanted to experience new games and thought, hey, let's take some more people along with the ride. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, follow both my YouTube and Twitch, and maybe we'll see you around sometime. But until next time, folks,